Dr. Chris McDougal is director of the new Lurie Center for Autism and professor of psychiatry and pediatrics at Mass General Hospital and MGH for Children. He also holds the Nancy Lurie Marks Professorship in the field of autism at Harvard Medical School. Prior to coming to Boston just last month, Dr. McDougal was chair of the Department of Psychiatry at Indiana University School of Medicine, and before that was director of the section on child and adolescent psychiatry. Before that, he was a member of the faculty at Yale School of Medicine for 7 years. He is an internationally recognized expert in neurobiology and neuropsychopharmacology of child-onset neuropsychiatric disorders, including autism. Chris, we look forward to your remarks today, to your leadership of the Lurie Center, and to getting to know you better in the months ahead. Please join me in a warm welcome for Dr. Chris McDougal. It's right there.
Well, thanks very much, Dee Dee, for that very nice introduction. It's great to meet all of you today, and a pleasure to be here in Boston. What a wonderful fall day to come to such a conference, and this facility is really amazing. So from an outsider's perspective, you really need to appreciate what you have here if you don't already. I'd like a number of people to thank. I wouldn't be here without the support of the Nancy Lurie Marks Family Foundation and what they've been able to do in putting forward support for autism. I also wouldn't be here without the Search and Screen Committee of the MGH and Harvard Medical School in allowing me to accept this opportunity, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity. You might wonder why I would come to Boston. I grew up in Indiana, you know. I was back home. I was chairman of the only department of psychiatry in the entire state. I had season tickets to IU basketball, and they are on their way back. I know you don't care about basketball here, but I'm going to try to do something about that. But I really had it made, and I'm 52. But I felt as though I had taken the department there as far as I could. People are what make things go, and it's difficult to recruit to the Midwest because many of you people from the coast say, well, I've flown over Indiana, and I think I stopped at O'Hare Airport once, but so it's difficult to recruit talent there. And if you want to, I wanted to have another run in my life and not just cruise it out. So I decided to do that. And it was a very difficult decision to leave my parents. I'm an only child, and my adult children and all that comfort. And I was really looking for a sign to tell me what to do. And I was also actively being recruited by Hopkins for a very attractive position. I didn't know what to do. And I talked to my 17-year-old daughter, Erin, and I said, honey, I don't know what to do. And she said, well, you need to go to Boston. And if you don't go to Boston, you're a hypocrite, because you've told us throughout our lives that you always want to strive to do your best. And if you don't take this position, I'll be disappointed with you. So that was really quite helpful to me in making the decision. But there are other reasons to come here. You see the Citgo sign. I've been a Red Sox fan since 1967. Right. And why would you become a Red Sox fan in Fort Wayne, Indiana? I mean, really. But I spent part of my honeymoon in Fenway Park, which may explain why I'm no longer married. And I used to go see the Red Sox in all the surrounding cities, Detroit, Cleveland, Chicago. So it was really Yastrzemski, Petrocelli, Conigliaro, the impossible dream that drew me to Boston. That's one reason I came back here. The other, in junior high, Aerosmith became a thing, and the Toys in the Attic album was very important to me. And I recently read the book by Steven Tyler, and People around here have told me they would hook me up with him to have lunch, so I'm still waiting for those kind of things to happen. But they all lived on Commonwealth Avenue when they were really gelling. And, you know, what made it happen, I think, is they all lived together and worked together in the same apartment. And that's how things happen, you know. So when you think about this Boston community, all these bright people scattered apart and the consortium trying to do what they're trying to do, we really need to get together more. And figure out a way to do it. And most of my mentors, when I asked them whether to come here or not, said the biggest challenge is going to get people to work outside their silos and work together. And so I'm optimistic about that happening. I'm coming here from the Midwest, where we don't have those kind of silos. We get together, we work together. So I have no preconceived ideas or notions. Let's just do the science and look for the truth. Here's another, this guy's from Indiana, you know. And you may not know that, but he did a lot for your city. I hope you realize that. And he's back in Indiana now. So if I can do, you know, half of what Larry Bird accomplished when he came to Boston, I'll be happy. And then the cars, you know. In medical school, the Cars were popular, and they recently came out with a new CD, and they're okay, you know. I really couldn't find any other things to talk about. So that's these things. The real thing that drew me was the opportunity to come here and work with very talented people. And beginning with the Lurie Center, which some of you don't know, it's located in Lexington, Massachusetts, actually, the clinical hub of the Lurie Center. And it used to be called Ladders, and was founded by Margaret Bowman years ago. And Margaret's really developed a special approach to autism that's been medically based. And for her to do this a number of years ago took some drive and determination when there were still psychodynamic thoughts about the cause of autism and parents being blamed for their child's autism. So in our field, we give Dr. Bowman a lot of credit for a medical approach to autism. And, you know, the clinic, the physicians are pediatric neurologists, developmental pediatricians, GI pediatric doctors. There's a little bit of child psychiatry, and there are also adult internal medicine doctors, which is very important as well. So there are a lot of strengths currently. The other good thing about the Lurie Center is it's co-located with the Spaulding Rehabilitative Hospital, a pediatric arm. And our clinic in Indiana was based in a children's hospital, a large children's hospital. And we had occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical, but you just would refer to those people. They weren't working right with you. And I'm now meeting with all of these individuals to get a sense of what they want to do, what they want to become a world's expert in. But can you think of really interesting studies you could do to combine speech therapy approaches, for example, with a compound, a medication that might enhance social relatedness or communication? Nothing's been done like that in the world. And what a simple concept. So I'm a simple thinker, but it works pretty well. And we're going to get together and do some very exciting things with the Spaulding colleagues. The other thing that struck me about the Lurie Center is the commitment to families. Everybody there is committed to families, and in part it's due to the Autism Consortium and their efforts to provide funding for the autism family support specialists at various centers throughout the city. So we're certainly very appreciative of that. And then the Lurie Center is one of 17 sites in the Autism Treatment Network that we want to remain involved with and try to energize further and really get it going. So lots of reasons to come here. What are some of the initial thoughts I've had? I've only been at work for 3 weeks. Now I work hard. I work 15 hours a day. And so that means that my home is a disaster. So if anybody wants to come up to me at lunchtime, I could need some help getting my electricity connected and things like that, because I don't have any of that yet. I don't have a television. So any effort in helping me out, I'd appreciate. Because MGH leadership won't let me go home until 9 p.m. at night. So there's not a good balance of work and family life right now. I'm kind of joking, so don't take it too seriously. You have to relax a little bit in this community, too. Have some fun, right? Right, Paul? Yeah. So a couple of the things that right away I think we can add to the strengths of the Lurie Center, add more psychopharmacology. Now that's what I do for a living. I'm a psychopharmacologist. And we're going to bring that. We're one of the top groups in the world. And adding to what is already at the Lurie Center is only going to strengthen it. The other thing we're going to need to do is enhance psychological services. So there really is an in-house behavior therapy, and that's an essential component in working with people and families with autism. The other thing that we're going to do, and it's capitalized here because it's a top priority, is to begin serving more adults with autism spectrum disorders. And I've probably treated more adults with autism as far as a child psychiatrist than anybody in the world, because when I started doing autism in the late 80s, I wasn't a child psychiatrist and I wanted to study autism. So I had a clinic for adults with autism. And if you think about it, you know, the fact is there are more adults with autism in the world than there are children with autism. But when you think about autism, you envision a child. That needs to change. You need to envision a 35 or 40-year-old with autism who has a significant communication disturbance, irritable behavior, an IQ of 70 or lower, and not much hope for vocational opportunities. That's the reality of it. And this is going to become a priority of ours, is to better understand and serve adults with these disorders and their family members. We brought a number of grants with us to the Lurie Center. So overnight, the center became a site for the RUP Autism Network, which has been funded by the NIH for the past 14 years and has received a lot of publicity. Our work has led to FDA approval of risperidone, for example, for autism, et cetera. So that's something that we're excited about. And we're going to look at a drug called guanfacine for hyperactivity in children and adolescents with autism. We brought another federal grant looking at a drug, atomoxetine, for hyperactivity in kids and adolescents with autism. And I was speaking with a woman, I can't remember names very well, who works with folks with Asperger's disorder in the context of theater. And she was saying how much anxiety these subjects has. There's not been one published, I see you right there, there's not been one published study of any drug for the treatment of anxiety in autism spectrum disorders ever in the world. That's ridiculous, okay? Because we all would acknowledge that there's certainly significant anxiety that affects many of these people. So those are the kind of things we're going to do. The no-brainer things, all right, that we need to start with. So we have that study going as well. Now, moving here 4 weeks ago and beginning work 3 weeks ago, I was busy enough. But then the NIH says, no, we're going to have a request for applications, and it only comes out once every 5 years, and they're going to be due in mid-November. So while you're doing those two things, we want you to write a bunch of big grants, too. So that's what we're doing. The RUP network is writing a multi-site grant application to look at another medication for treating anxiety in ASDs. There's also another very interesting multi-site treatment network that's evolving to look at the neurohormone oxytocin, which you would inhale intranasally for the social impairment and communication disturbance of autism. And the third ACE grant that we're working on is in collaboration with neuroimagers at McLean. And this is going to be looking at depression in adolescents and young adults with autism. So another very common disorder that affects, half of the room, depression. And we act like it can't occur in people with autism, when in fact it's more likely to occur than it is in us. So there's never been a systematic trial of any antidepressant medicine to treat anybody with autism in the world. This is ridiculous. So those are the kind of things that we're going to do. And coming here is going to, highlight this community. We're going to get it going. We have a lot of energy. Right? Let's go. I can't feel it. I feed off of you guys, so I need a little energy. These are some of the little bit more novel approaches that we've been thinking about. and glutamatergic agents. There are a number of medications that potentially can affect social impairment and communication. People here for years have been experts in glutamate drugs. People at McLean, Joe Coyle, and at MGH, Don Goff, have done a lot of work with these agents. The neuroimmune axis needs to be probed and studied to a much greater degree. A number of us are convinced that there's a subtype of autism related to an immune disturbance. And Andy Zimmerman is a child neurologist at the Lurie Center who's more knowledgeable about this area than really anybody in the world. So Andy moved here about a year ago, and I think things happen for a reason. And we're really going to go after this one. And then neurohormones, again, I think oxytocin, vasopressin, if you read about these areas, they've been around a long time, speaking from an evolutionary perspective. So that tells us they're very important. And they're very important in the way that animals and people relate to one another and how we take care of our children. Finally, there's no city that I'm aware of that has such a thing as an Autism Consortium, right? And there's some people that run this organization that have a lot of drive and a lot of energy. So I met Paul during one of my interview visits and was very impressed with his energy, his no-nonsense approach, and speaking truthfully and from the heart, which is very much what I believe in. So I don't like to sugarcoat things too much because I'm a nice guy, but I don't like to waste time. And my tombstone will read, blunt but fair. That's all it's going to say, which is good enough for me. But when I think about the opportunity to come here, I don't feel walled in by MGH or the Lurie Center. I think, Chris Walsh, are you kidding me? I've never even met him. If you're here, you ought to introduce yourself to me. I'll give you a card. Because he's in the same city. I can take a T over here and talk to him. I met, Chuck Henry, right? Helen Tager Flussberg, are you kidding me? You have all these people here? Let's go, right? Let's get excited. Jim Gazella, he's a god to me. And I got to go to Jim Gazella's office a week ago and talk about genetic approaches. These are things that you can't do anywhere else in the world. That's why you come to Boston. So there aren't going to be institutional barriers to where I'm going to go. And so I expect a number of people to email me and invite me over for coffee. Now, I don't like fancy coffee. I drink instant Maxwell House with generic fat-free coffee creamer. That's the truth. Now, you're going to have to get used to the way I interact and talk and accept me as I am. But these are all facts. I don't want any hazelnut coffee. But the other thing, you talk about grant opportunities. You come in with investigators from Children's Hospital and MGH and MIT. Are you kidding me? That's going to blow people away. And they're going to say, I didn't think these guys talked to one another. But look how powerful a grant like that can be. And you all know that, but it's our responsibility to make that happen. And I'm going to do my best to help with it. What about policy and advocacy? If we unite and go to the State House, we can do a whole lot more. In particular, we really need to do something about adolescents and adults with autism, because many of you are parents or family members and you have children who are 1 to 12 years old. You all know that in a blink of an eye, they're going to be 18 and 22, and there's going to be little available for them. So it's really time to do something, and I think collectively we're going to be able to do a whole lot here. Boston needs to be the autism capital of the world. Are you kidding me? Let's go. Let's get excited about it. Now, that's Peyton Manning. I'm not a big fan of Tom Brady, although I would like an autographed football from Tom Brady, which some of the MGH leadership, they implied that I was going to get one, but I haven't received one yet. And I would like that. But anyway, I was hoping you'd have a more visceral reaction to this, like boo or we hate him or something, but that's okay. You're kind of reserved, stoic people. And but anyway, That's what I have to say. I didn't have a lot of time, but I hope to be able to talk with you in the future in much more detail and talk more about science. So thank you very much for inviting me into your community.